Hello, so today we are about to go out on our first bike ride, well, first bike ride in a very long time, so let's see how this goes. The mighty steeds. Hey, hope you're doing well. Welcome to our very first bike ride of 2024. Now, I'm fairly sure I did a ride at least once last year, but it could have been the year before if I'm being brutally honest. And that would have been this same 10-mile loop that we're on right now. So you're probably going to see and hear some very dodgy gear changes. Now, truth be told, I'd actually forgotten how to change the gears on this bike, as I bought it around about 10 years ago, and I've probably only done around about 200 miles on it in total, and 150 of those would have been way back in the very first year, and since then I've basically just carted it on the back of removal vans around the country. So the backstory to this is that we used to live in Wiltshire, which is an absolutely excellent area for cycling. You've got lots of relatively quiet back roads, and I got into cycling daily because we rented a house in a hamlet with no access to gyms or any of those kind of facilities, and I really wanted to get fit again. So we can kind of look at that as my quarter life fitness journey. So I went out and I bought my first ever road bike, which was a Triban 3B Twin. It cost about £300. And if you've seen any of my earlier vids where I'm sat on a couch, you'll be able to see it's still there, strapped to the wall behind me. It served me really well, and I really got used to how to use, repair and maintain a bike, and I pretty much used it daily for several years, starting out basically on 10-mile local loops. Then we scaled it all the way up to 100-mile pub crawls, weekend trips around Wiltshire, Dorset, even the Peak District on occasion. It was a really great bike, but it was a triple, which basically means you just have 3 sprockets at the front of the bike. And it's a bit of a pain to both adjust the derailleurs, and it's actually really quite hard on the thumbs when you're shifting and swapping gears. I could have changed out the entire gear set, but it would have actually cost more than the bike in the first place. So I had a look around the market, and at that time Giant had a big sale on, and I went out and bought this bike here, which was around about 700-800 quid, which some people may call cheap, and certainly when I've been looking on prices today, it is relatively cheap. But not to make too big a thing about it, it was actually more money than I spent on my very first car. Quite honestly, 700 quid on a bike was a huge step up for me to be spending that kind of money on a push bike. Now, the gears, however, once I had invested in it, were a massive improvement. The quality, smoothness, really, it's like a totally different machine, and I loved it. And then, then I stopped using it. I basically bought it at the end of summer in a sale, and then it got around to winter, which was quite snowy, and I went straight back to using the Triban again because it already had winter tyres on it. Then early one evening the following year, I just got home from work, and I had a phone call from my wife saying that she'd fallen off her bike and if I could come and pick her up because she wasn't sure if she could cycle back. Which, you know, these things happen, we all have these incidents, but when I actually got to her, found her standing there covered in blood. What we eventually have kind of assumed is that she was actually hit by a car. Well, we say assumed because we don't know for absolute certainty, as it was a bit of a hit and run. She was kind of found in the middle of the road and helped to the side of the road by another driver, but that's pretty much all she can remember. Now, injury-wise, she was actually quite lucky in certain respects. She did end up with a broken elbow and a smashed up helmet, which kind of at least proved to me that you do really need to have a solid helmet when you're out there cycling. And she could have ended up with far more dangerous breaks to her back. But yeah, it was certainly a bit of an eye-opener to the world of cycling on the road, and certainly cycling on your own. And it's in many ways one of the reasons why today, where you can just stick a camera on your bike, it actually gives you a certain amount more confidence to be able to just flick on the camera so you can see some dangerous driving, and at least at least you can know why you got run over or have a record of it to play back. But yeah, not a good experience, not something that we want to have happen again. But that is probably the biggest reason for not cycling for such a long time. Then the year following that, we actually moved from Wiltshire up to the Midlands, which, no offence to Mansfield, it's not exactly the most inspiring place to get out and go cycling, particularly with the amount of bellends driving around there. So it didn't inspire us to get back up and get going again. So here we are in August 2024 and starting up cycling again with the plan to cycle the JOGLE sometime next year. And I can already tell you that it is going to be way harder than expected. So similar to the Hadrian's Wall challenge, we may be biting off more than we can chew. However, the stars aligned, or more accurately, the sun came out. So this is a really good start to our journey. Now, if you noted the date at the start of this video, you'll also be able to tell that I'm a bit behind on the video front. And this is kind of a mix of both work and personal life getting in the way a bit. But it's also not having a clue on how to edit these cycle videos. Now, the mount I'm using in this and probably the next couple of videos you'll see me on a bike, it's a bit of a pig. And it's not something I'll be using long term, but I am kind of trying to play around with it and seeing what kind of shots I can actually get from there. You'll also see that I've got a phone holder cum storage bag on the front of the bike, which really looked like a great idea online, somewhere that I could actually carry batteries to keep my phone and cameras and other gadgets actually charged up while we're out cycling on long journeys. But the reality is, all that happens is you end up banging your knees and chafing your legs as you go along. So it's not something, basically, after this ride, it gets taken off and it's now sat on the side or in a box somewhere downstairs, probably never to be seen again. Coming into the final straight of our 10-mile loop now, and just a few more words from the end of the day. So yeah, that was much harder than anticipated, and I was expecting that to be hard. It's what, 9-10 miles, 40 minutes, 21 hours recovery. Oh, never mind. It can only get better, I'm sure.